What's up, guys? We are back with some more Plunderlings, taking a look at another chunk of the releases from this first initial Kickstarter offering. So I sort of ranted and raved about how much I loved the Drench and the Feral series, and then I ended up getting a hold of every other Plunderling that has been released. So of course we're going to take a look at more, and we're going to take a look at two different sets of two. So we're taking a look at four today. We're going to do the Raiders and the Berserk figures. So we've got these guys here in the same kind of boxes that we saw with the other ones that I did. So you've got the sort of shipping crate motif almost, and then the box itself actually makes up a Plunderling. So the figure is there in the window with the big mouth, and then you've got the shipping crate aspect along the sides. You can pop those earpieces in like on the other figures to make the actual head of a Plunderling. You've got a product shot on the back, and then even on the bottom, which I didn't notice at first, you even got feet down there on the bottom just to play up the whole aspect of the box being sort of like its own little figure, which is really cool. I really like the presentation on the packaging alone. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our four Plunderlings. We got two sets of two again. So we've got our Berserkers here on the left. We've got Spurt and Gobbler here. And then we've got, on the right, we've got our Raiders. We've got Fwoosh, and we've got Gank. So these guys are very, very similar in many ways, not just because they are the same colors, but because they're constructed the same. So there's not a whole lot to talk about when it comes to articulation. We're not obviously talking about four different figures. We're going to pick one of these guys out, use them as a guinea pig, and I'll show you how these little guys can move around because they have a great range of motion. You can do so much with these little guys. So let's pull one of them out and see what they're capable of. And that guinea pig is going to be Gobbler. So let's see what these guys can do. If you caught my initial review of the Ferals and the Drench Plunderlings, then you really know what to expect here. There's not really anything different. But for the uninitiated, let's see what they can do. I'm going to do it again and go kind of crazy over the range of motion on the heads here because they have such a good range of motion. It's a ball peg with a hinge at the top of the neck, the base of the peg, and you can get super, super far up, and then they can look all the way down. Of course, you do have a really, really good tilt as well, and then you've got full rotation at the neck. The arms go out that far at the shoulder, rotate all the way around. You do have to watch the ears, but of course it doesn't really do anything as far as stopping them. You've got a single jointed rotating elbow, and then you've got hinges which do work really, really well, especially inwards. They go in really far, and then you've got rotation there. They do have a diaphragm cut, so they go side to side really good, backwards pretty good, forward a little bit, and then of course mostly full rotation. I mean, if you push it, you're going to get them to go, but they don't go any less than you need them to without stressing them. Legs go out only about that far. That's probably the one area where they do have a little bit of limitation. They kick forward all the way though, a little bit on the back because their butt gets in the way. You do have a thigh cut. We've got double jointed knees back there, and then you've got your hinges at the ankles, and then you've got full rocker down there also. So you do have a really good range of motion. I mean, there's really nothing that I think is missing or mistaken about these figures. They move exceptionally well. They are very easy to play with, and you can get them into some really, really solid poses without any real effort. Now, as far as the overall aesthetics, we're going to start with the Berserkers here, and we're gonna talk about them because they are similar, but of course different to the Raiders. So we've got Gobbler on the left again, and then we've got Spurt here on the right. And again, for all intents and purposes, they are the same toy. They are the same figure. It all comes down to deco changes when we're talking about differences. So of course, Gobbler is green and Spurt is blue, and he is a nice kind of like powdery blue. It's a very Fwoosh blue if we're going to get real specific in the world of YouTube. But I'm very happy with the way these guys look, and you of course have different head sculpts to swap in and out. So I've already put one on Spurt. You've got the default one here on Gobbler, which I really like. I mean, it shows the more mischievous side of things when it comes to these guys because he looks cute and cuddly, but of course, based on what these guys are, they are definitely not. And then you've got one of the little more kind of devilish looking sculpts on Spurt here, and I'm really happy with these guys. They are a little bit more basic compared to some of the other ones because they don't have pants and they don't have anything like that. All they really have is a harness on them, and they do have a peg hole on the back, which we'll talk about here shortly, that allows for some weapons usage. But I think overall the sculpt on these guys is tremendous. I mean, musculature where it is necessary is really well done. They've got really odd proportions which work really well just to make them super unique because they've got kind of like these squat bodies with the super long arms. that go down almost, to like mid calf on these guys. So I'm really happy with the overall presentation, despite the fact that these two are a little bit more, again, on the basic side. That's not a negative. It's just a comparison between other types of figures. So like the Drench are really unique with their transparent plastic. These guys are just mostly naked little goblin guys that happen to have a harness on them with a nice and cleanly applied little gold medallion there in the chest. And just like I said on my initial review for the other figures I've done so far, paint and sculpt on these guys is tremendously well done. There is not a lot of actual specific detail on these guys because, again, they're mostly naked, but things like the nails and the toenails and even the shading on the inside of the ears to bring out just a little bit of that sculpt and kind of draw your attention to the heads is really well done. The teeth are really clean and crisp. The pink in those gums on this particular head sculpt is really nice. And then in comparison to the really matte finish of these figures, the eyes have a great glossiness to them, especially with that little swipe of white on them to give them almost kind of a cartoony feel. It looks really good. It's all a very stark contrast to the matte finish on the body when it comes to the eyes and the nails. So another stellar set of figures. They are just a little bit more basic than the rest, but these are some of the more entry-level Plunderlings, I guess you might say, when it comes to some of the designs that we get. A lot of the other figures, of course, have clothing and things like that, but I do like these more kind of bare bones Plunderlings just because of the fact that they are unique in their own right in that regard. And then as far as the Raiders go, we've got Foosh here on the left in the very appropriate blue, and you've got Gank here on the right in green. And these guys are very, very similar to the Berserkers, just in overall build and what they offer, because they have the mostly naked setup, although these guys have pants this time around, so it does change things up. If you saw the previous review I did that had Zombone from the Feral set, then you know what to expect here, because it's the same as these two, except for the fact that these guys have the belt on them. And it is literally just like a belt, and it wraps around their shoulder. If you took them apart, you could take this off if you wanted. It is a free-floating piece. But they have two storage points as well. So you've got a point on the back and on the side, just like the Berserkers do. Of course, the harness is absent this time, and we got a belt. But it's the same quality. There's really not much else to talk about here outside of the fact that they have pants. So that's one of the big changes. So you've got a kind of a different crotch piece here when it comes to the jagged nature of these kind of torn pants with the rope belt, which is really well done. Paint is really clean and crisp, so brown versus yellow for these two. And then more when it comes to the upper legs, you've got more sculpt here as far as the jagged kind of cut-off nature of their shorts there. So I do like the fact that they are still very similar. They aren't as detailed as some of the other figures in the line, but they are a little bit more detailed than the Berserkers, while still being very similar in nature when it comes to color palette and then overall build. So you've got kind of an entirely naked Plunderling, and then one that decided to get halfway dressed for the day and to put on some pants. Now, as far as size comparisons go, I'm not going to go super deep into this because I've already done this before, so if you want some more, check the other review. But as far as what these guys are meant to scale with, we're talking 6-inch, 7-inch, 1/10 to 1/12 style figures. So we've got Ultimates Lino here from Super 7 for a 7-inch figure, and then we've got the Black Series Beskar Mando here for your 6-inch figure, and then just for something a little bit larger, just because, why not, just to do it. Here they are with the Red Hulk Marvel Legends figure, just for size comparison for an overall much larger figure. So these guys scale really, really well with most things from Hasbro, most stuff from Super 7, NECA, things like that. They're going to fit in really nicely to be these little troublemakers on your shelf, while also not being super tiny to the point where you can't really do anything. So they do fit into a nice little sweet spot when it comes to being small, but not too small or too big. Now, as far as accessories goes, these guys come with a decent amount of stuff, with a few things that I haven't seen in what I've already looked at previously. So the Feral ones and the Drench did not come with some of the same stuff. And a lot of that comes down to weapon storage. But before we get to that, every figure does come with a set of extra hands, and they are gripping hands. So you've got a set of gripping hands. I'm not going to show every set because they're just the same sculpt with different colors. But you've got fists that were also available as add-on packs, which I don't have for these guys. I have them for a few of the others, but not for these guys. And then they do have the extra head sculpt. So you can see I've got the smiling one here, and I've got the one with the teeth showing mouth open here. There's also a third with the mouth not open but teeth showing. This is probably my favorite head sculpt, just because it is the most devious looking head. But they all three have their uses for sure. These guys do come with some similar accessories though. So the one difference here here is that the helmets and the hats and stuff are different for these guys. So Gank comes with the kind of bandana piece that you see here, and Foosh comes with the more kind of buccaneer style hat. And just like with the other figures I've talked about, one of the coolest aspects of these guys is that all this stuff is swappable and that they have magnets on there. So you just drop it on and you are good to go. So I really do like that. I think it's really cool, and it's incredibly functional as well. They do share their other accessories, though, the first of which is this big sort of cutlass sword, which is honestly, it's like comically oversized for these guys, so it seems like something that would work in a 7-inch figure, but of course these guys got their hands on it. So it's this super long and actually really beat up sword, but the colors on it are really good. The gold and the silver metallic is really nicely done. And then you've got this sort of crossbow style of gun here as well, but it's more like a slingshot gun really, but it looks sort of like a crossbow-esque. And it's of course, you know, done up in sort of like a wood patterning with some wraps all over it, and then you've got this metal down here for the firing mechanism. What's really interesting about these is something that I didn't see on the other figures that I've worked with so far, is that these guys have weapon storage, and that goes back to these holes that I talked about. And they come with these little hook pieces right here that you pop into the holes, so you've got one for however many holes that your figure has on the body. I do find that putting these in was a little bit more difficult than I expected it to be. I had to actually take the belt off of the figure to pop it in, but then once it's there, you can, you know, put your sword in there and it'll sit in there, and then put the crossbow slingshot in there and it'll sit in there. It is a little on the awkward side, I think, but otherwise it does work pretty well. So they do come with a really solid array of accessories. I mean, multiple weapon type of accessories. You've got hats, so things that are swappable, and then of course 3 heads total, 4 total hands. Really just an all-around solid package. Now, as far as the Berserkers go, they are similar, but of course different to the Raiders. In the general sense, they all have the same kind of pack out though. So you've still got the 3 different heads, you've got the hands. These guys also come with the storage hooks as well for their harnesses, but their unique accessories are what of course is different for this set of 2. So we've got, to start with, we've got Gobbler with the sort of stereotypical Viking-ish style helmet with the horns on it, and then you've got Spurt with the Conquistador style helmet, and this one, just like the rest, they're all magnetized, so you can pop them on and they work really well. You can swap them around, no one's tied to any particular thing. And then they do have some more unique accessories to them as a type of figure. So with Gobbler, he comes with a set of axes. So you've got these 2 little axes, which I think look really cool. These are instantly some of my favorite accessories right now, because I think he looks really cool brandishing these. And then he comes with this sort of conch shell horn. So it's got this handle on here, and then it's even got a hole. So you can have him put it up to his mouth like he's going to, you know, sound an alarm or something like that. We've got the same shell for Spurt here, but he has a single weapon to take place of the axes. So he's got this big sort of harpoon spear thing, which looks really awesome. The silver paint on that is really nicely done. It's almost like a pewtery silver. It's not bright silver. It's got sort of a dullness to it. And of course, it's also very, very large. So he gets a 2-handed weapon instead of 2 single-handed weapons. So they do come with the overall solid pack out of accessories, 3 total heads each. You've got the weapon accessory hooks. You've got 4 hands. And then they each have unique accessories while sharing a few parts to make them into the quote-unquote Berserker type of Plunderling. So yeah, if you caught my first review, you kind of know that I already love this line to begin with, and getting more of them, it just sort of cements that feeling. I'm really happy with the way these guys turned out. I think the Lone Coconut folks did a fantastic job, from the packaging to the actual figure to all the accessories, just to the overall look and feel and the design of these guys. They're really fun figures. I can't put them down. My daughter loves playing with them, and they're just cool. They come with a lot of cool stuff. The designs are unique. There's something different. There's something that isn't already rooted in some kind of a license, so you've got that kind of newness and new appeal to them that we don't see all that often anymore. And like I said in my first review, I really regretted not getting as many of these as possible in the Kickstarter, and once Big Bad Toy Store got theirs, I made sure to get every figure that I was missing. I would urge folks to track one of these down if you can. Granted, they are going for crazy prices now, but at the same time, I know once you get them, you aren't going to want to put it down. They are really fun and an exceptional new line of figures right now. So that's going to do it for this look at the Lone Coconut, Plunderlings, Raider, and Berserker sets. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.